Hey, how you doing? What would you do if I told you this computer right here was $100? Well, I'd be lying to you, because it's not this computer that's worth 100. It's actually this one. Now, this isn't my normal video, this one's actually a build guide. And in this build guide, I'm going to show you exactly how to build a computer just like this one. Well, it all starts on eBay. Now, we all know that eBay is home to some of the best deals you can find. But in order to find them, we have to know exactly what we're looking for. In this situation, a Dell OPTIPLEX. With the buy now settings and the price set to low, we are able to start our venture. Now, scrolling up and down, we are able to see different OPTIPLEXes of different sizes. I'd suggest the mini tower, just due to its upgradability. You can put a GPU in there a lot easier than a small form factor. And through that, we are able to find this, an OPTIPLEX 390 with an i3-2120. Along with 8GB of RAM with no hard disk drive or an OS. But this really wasn't that big of an issue because it was sufficient RAM. However, what we could do is upgrade the CPU. Now, in order to upgrade the CPU, what we needed to do was figure out what CPUs were compatible. This was easy by doing a search, and we were able to find compatible components. Now, it seemed that everyone uses either the i5-2400, i7-2600, or the i5-2500. Since we don't have that big money, we're going to be going for an i5-2500. For only $750, it really doesn't break the bank whatsoever. It's nice to say the very least. Now, we're also looking for an SSD. Now, this SSD which we're looking for is going to be $13, and really you can get just about any SSD as long as it's inexpensive and it can house your OS. Now, when you put your games on, that's up to you. Next, we need a GTX 950. Now, the 950 is a good card for a very inexpensive price, $30 like we see. I think the 950 would be very good in our system, so that's what I'm going to be choosing. However, if it is too expensive for you or in your area, you can vouch for the R9-270X. Now, this is a card with similar performance, just not as good of drivers. Now, the drivers are modded in some cases, so you just have to do that instead, but still a very good performing card. After doing all this, we need to get a PSU. 500 watts is realistically all you're going to need in this situation, though you're going to want to make sure to get a good power supply. For us, I think that 80 plus is a very sufficient one. And in all honesty, it's going to work regardless as long as you don't mess it up. Just put in the right power cables and you can use just about any PSU you want as long as it has the right pins. Make sure that you have a 6-pin or an 8-pin depending on what GPU you get and what it requires. Now, if you want to play it a little bit riskier, you can get one of these 600 watt Hercules. Now, I haven't heard too many bad things about these, but I do know that it's from not as reputable of a brand and does not have the 80 plus seal like quite a few of the other ones. Now, next thing you want to do is customize your PC, because who wants it to be boring? For me, I cut out an F35. A cool decal, and I think you guys can do just about anything. All you have to do is paint over it, and what you're left with is honestly very nice looking. Pleasant on the eyes, to say the least. Now, I went a little bit overboard with this. However, you guys can do a very similar thing, and it just helps to add customability to your PC. I would highly recommend this. After doing all this, I suppose it's time to get the system booted up. And this gives me a good time to go over what operating system we're using. Well, obviously it's Windows 10. However, I decided to use an ultralight version of Windows 10. I actually used it in a previous build as well. It's known as Ghost Spectre, and it happens to be phenomenal at minimizing the amount of RAM and CPU usage during Windows. Now, if you have 16 gigs of RAM, you're one of the lucky ones, and you don't have to worry about minimal CPU and GPU and RAM usage, then go right ahead and use normal Windows 10. However, if you're like me and you only have 8 gigs in your system, I'd suggest using an ultralight system. Now, after all this, I'd say you go and test some games on it, because that's what you're here to see. Our first and oldest game that we tested was Black Ops 1. At 1080p max, we had minimums of 84, maximum of 92, and an average of 91. Now, this was a zombies game mode, and everything was maxed out except for the number of corpses. That was tiny because honestly, I don't feel like having a trillion zombies dead on the floor. It just doesn't look good. Now, this was also an online game, which meant having to deal with server lag as well, but the PC took it like a champ. Honestly, for $100, you can't really go wrong, and this is an excellent experience. Speaking of excellent experiences, the next game we tested was Overwatch 2. Now, with minimums of 104, a maximum of 131, and an average of 121, it's crazy that at 1080p this computer was able to perform so admirably. Heck, I could have taken this to competitive if I wanted to. Unfortunately I did, and I lost quite a few games. However, that is not the PC's fault. Now, I did also test Fortnite Apex, but of course the footage was corrupted. So we were able to play Fortnite at 1080p performance with minimums of 49, maximum of 61, and average of 60, it was locked to 60, and 1080p low for Apex with a minimum of 45, a maximum of 105, and an average of 76. This now brings us to the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you need help building something like this, hop in the Discord and I'll do what I can. Have an excellent night.